Today I'm going to tell you about the key facilitation rule. Also will tell you how you can practice in that. And in the end there will be a bonus for those who will stay. I will show you the general schema for any facilitation and explain you how to use it. So let's start. First thing about the problem, and you may wonder like, okay, why should I think about facilitation if, for example, I'm not a facilitator and not a manager? It's still important because if you attend discussions, you may feel like you're frustrated during these discussions and you don't know what to do with it. Even if you're not driving these discussions, when you will know how they should go, you will be able to impact them and somehow make them better, and in the future you may even start to drive them. And facilitation is needed not only when you work in group, but when you think about things internally, like work on some plan or think about some issue. It still has the same structure as when you work in the group, and the same issues appear, only just internally. And the problem, like problem breakdown or problem with the realization with the facilitation, is the following. So there are two root causes of like what bad facilitation results starts from. And first root cause is that impactful questions are not answered. And I will explain it a bit later, but generally it works like some piece of information was needed at the beginning and it was not provided, and then things that were discussed afterwards make no sense. And second is that focus interference happens. It's when different team members focus on different things in the same moment, in the same discussion, and they don't help each other, right? They make obstacles instead of synergy. And the consequence of that is that you have too slow or even no progress at all in the discussion, and you feel like, okay, we're not progressing. And as a result, the team gets demotivated and their attention is withdrawn from the discussion. And actually, attention is the main resource that you have as a group, and the main resource that facilitator is controlling. And the problem with this is you feel this part, you feel it as a symptom. So you feel like you're frustrated, you feel like the progress is too slow, and often people start to work with it like that. Okay, we're too slow, let's speed up. Or guys, you're not listening, you're not attending, please bring your attention back. But the problem, the root cause of the problem is not that attention is withdrawn. The problem is that it's withdrawn because of something, and it's withdrawn because of these reasons. And if you don't understand the impact of facilitator and the need for facilitation, you will try to influence this without fixing root causes, and it won't work. And you probably were in such situations, and if you try to impact this directly without resolving the root causes, you won't get the result. And yeah, let's look closer on the root causes. So first root cause, like when impactful questions are not answered, may look like that. So for example, you discuss the solution on low level first, and there is a bigger attempt to do that because technical people are mainly focused on the solution, and it's more interesting to discuss the solution. And high level questions are a kind of non-clear and contain lots of uncertainty, and psychologically it's hard to think about them, and we jump lower on things that we understand. Then you get more context on problem level, and your solution design goes to trash. What happens then? People get demotivated, like, okay, we spent all this time and what was it for? And if you do this over and over again, you will just develop a bad culture of discussions, and people demotivate in long term. And you may think, okay, so let's discuss the problem first. And okay, what happens if you discuss the problem? For example, you discuss the problem, you design the solution, design it on low level, probably even start to develop it, and then you get input on that this problem was not important. And what happens? Your problem discussion, your solution design, probably even the implementation that you did so far is not needed anymore, and it goes to trash. So that's what happens when impactful questions are not answered. It doesn't mean that you always can answer all the questions from the beginning. No, but you should try, right? You should do as much as possible. Second thing about the focus interference looks like that. You in the team discuss one problem, right? You discuss it, but after some time, for example, in 5 minutes, somebody asks a question and you start to discuss the second topic without answering the first one. And if you're quite sensitive, you may feel like, oh, something bad is happening, but you don't know what to do with that, and you discuss the second problem, get to the middle of that, and then switch to the third one, and you feel like you're jumping from topic to topic during the entire hour, but don't make progress at all. So that's focus interference, like when different people think about different things in the same moment without focusing on one problem. And yeah, that's another root cause. And let's see how can you work with it. So here is the key facilitation rule. And the rule is the following: question is more important than the answer. All right? You should always remember about that. And the algorithm of implementing this rule is the following: understand, it means like you internally, understand current main question. Then write it down. Then share this understanding with the team. So everybody should understand this question. Then answer this question and then repeat. So that's the key algorithm. If you will follow that, you will be successful and you will progress fast in the topic that you are discussing. And you can make mistake on each of the steps. For example, you may not understand the current main question, or the question you understand is not the main one. So you may just focus on non-important question at the moment. You may do that. You may not write down the question, or you may not share understanding with the team. So you probably understand the question correctly, but everybody else understands it differently. And you may not provide an answer, but usually we are quite good in that. That's why question is more important, because we know how to answer the question. We are really bad in asking questions. And without facilitation, people always provide answer without understanding a question. There is a big temptation to provide an answer, and if you will focus and attentively look at how people behave when you discuss things, they always start to provide answers without getting the proper context. And if there is a person who starts from questions first and is attentive to the questions, he already is quite good as a facilitator. So he or she already knows the rule probably intuitively. And without facilitation, people always answer different questions at the same time, because the space of questions is very big. I mean, if you randomly pick up all the possible questions at the moment, you will just pick up a random set and they won't repeat. And it's impossible that a group of 5 people will think about the same question in the same time without synchronization. And if they do synchronization on the question, then they just apply this rule. And without question written down, people forget about it. Like you may speak about the question and you say, okay, the question is like that, let's work on that. But without a formulation, everybody will understand the question in a different way. And without the formulation written down, people will forget about it and start to think about something else and start to drag attention to something else. And if you write down the question, it works like a contract. So guys, you see that, and everybody should see this written down question, of course. So if you have seen that, you agreed on that, let's focus on this one, right? And if we switch the question, it should be like contract re-signing. And yeah, what if you don't know what question should be answered at this particular moment? This is a beautiful part, because still there is a question. Like the question is, what is the current main question, right? If you don't know what is it, then the question is about the question. It's quite simple, and you should focus on this. And there will be a big temptation again. If you don't know what question you should focus on, you will start to focus on things that you understand. It's not correct, because you may start to think about low-level things, which will go to trash after you will get the input. So you should be disciplined here, and you should drag attention to the question until you understand it. And yeah, how to practice? It's quite simple. During discussions, ask yourself what question is being discussed at the moment. So develop this sense of what is being discussed. And if you will practice the amount of time, you will start to feel it at every moment, right? And just practice in that. Like put attention into that, try to answer this, try to understand what is being discussed and what question we are discussing, and you will notice that different people are focused on different questions at the same moment of time. So if you will start to understand this intuitively, it means that you have practiced enough. And second thing, like ask yourself, is it the right question? And if not, then what is the right question? So practicing that during a discussion, ask yourself, what question is being discussed at the moment? If this person said that, what question is he or she trying to answer? And what is the right question? Try to understand what should be discussed at the moment. Practicing that, and the more you practice, the better you will be in following this rule. And on my channel, there is a video on how you can facilitate any complex topic discussion using ordering concerns. And actually, this practice of ordering the concerns came out of this key facilitation rule. Concerns just allow you to put all the questions on the board and then order them and agree like in what order are we going to discuss them. It's just an implementation of this rule. There might be other implementations, so you may follow like a 6 thinking hats approach, and hopefully I will tell you about this in the future. But again, it's about the same rule. It structures the process like you first ask a question and then answer it. Every facilitation technique will be about that. So the key thing is still the same. And yeah, if you want to see how ordering concerns work, just review the video. I will put it in the description. So that's it. That's the main theoretical part. Just do this, practice in this, and you will see how your facilitation skills grew up and how the performance of your team in discussions increases. If you like this video and if you find this advice helpful, press like and subscribe to my channel so that you will get notified about new videos. And now I will tell you about the bonus thing, like general schema for any facilitation. Let's review it. And like quite logically, the schema is a sequence of questions that you should ask in the proper order. So first question should go before the second one, and the questions are like that. What's the problem initial formulation? Like formulation of the subject. It should be somehow formulated, like what are we discussing at all. So and it should be ideally written down. So that's about the subject. Then why should we discuss this problem but not a different one? So it's the question about motivation, like why are we discussing this at all? Why are we discussing this but not a different one? Then, how will we understand that the problem is solved? It's a question about acceptance criteria. Third one is how will we solve the problem? So a discussion of the solution. And fifth one is what is the execution plan? After we understand the solution, how do we execute it? And like usual process, if you don't put attention to facilitation, is like that. You have some formulation, some problem, it's not properly formulated, and you just jump to the fourth step or to fifth step. Like, okay, how will we solve it? Or even who will solve it and when? Without understanding of the motivation, without understanding of acceptance criteria. And if the problem is small and the solution takes small time, then okay, you will just do this, and if it's not important, you will just move it to trash. But if the problem is big, you will suffer from that, because you will develop a solution, will start to implement it, and then you will understand that this thing is not important. And even if it's important, you will suffer from the team members asking questions like quite silly questions that they would be able to answer themselves if they understand the motivation. But if they only understand the solution, they will over and over ask you about like, should we do this or this? How will we implement this? And this will be clear if they understand the motivation. So, and these questions are always in there. Like this is the general schema in the sense that you should always think about these questions, and they should always go in this order. So you shouldn't discuss solution before you understand why is it important than the other thing. But other questions may appear in between. So for example, you may add a question like, who is needed for this discussion? And this question will likely go before the subject, because you cannot say who is needed before you understand the subject. Often there is a question like, is acceptance criteria A is more important than B? We often ask it because we want to understand like what is more important inside this problem, like what part is more important than the other, like, or if we will achieve this, will it be more helpful than if we achieve this? And other questions may be added, but this will be present. These questions will be always present. Then you shouldn't discuss question x+1, for example, fourth question, before you answer all the previous ones. And here I address the problems from here. So impactful questions are not answered, means that you start to discuss fourth thing without understanding of 1, 2, 3. Of course, if you already discussed this sometime in the past and you have all these answers in your mind, or ideally written down somewhere, you may continue the discussion on this particular meeting from point number 4. But if you have new people here in this discussion who doesn't know answers to the previous questions, you should start from repeating this. Otherwise, people won't be able to participate properly, and they will either jump to motivation or jump to another things that are not important according to motivation, but they just don't know that they shouldn't do this because they don't understand the motivation. And if during some let's imagine the following situation: you have discussed the subject, you have discussed motivation, acceptance criteria, and you discussed the solution. And at this moment, you get a piece of new information that changes the motivation. So probably you discover a problem that is more important than the one that you are discussing at the moment. It's quite acceptable that you change the motivation and start to discuss another problem if it's actually more important. But if you change the focus and change the problem just because you haven't asked yourself and your team about the motivation earlier, then it's the mistake of facilitator. So you should do your best to ask more important questions, more impactful questions first. And if you haven't asked it and this information appears like in a couple hours of time, then yeah, it's your mistake. Just correct it in the future and ask the questions. It will be still helpful experience if you will think about it and make conclusions out of it. But yeah, you should do your best to answer these questions before discussing lower level ones. So yeah, that's it. That's the general schema. Try to apply it and write comments on how it worked for you. Share your ideas of how you facilitate the discussions. I will be happy to read what you do. That's it for today. Thank you for your attention and see you soon.